Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode. The title is Massive Ideological Overlays on a Rock in the Middle of Nowhere. And so I want to speak about how ridiculous it is that we're being human beings right now and where we're being human beings. And really how we can awaken like a species, right? And what do these words mean? You know, really, we cannot ignore society now. It's like another additional dimension. Back in the day, our ancestors were just animals. We're animals in the jungles, you know. It's like, what planning, what future vision, what advancement, what global identity, what group identity. You know, we were just bewildered. And from the unconscious, the bewildered, the wild, and the ignorant, slowly the species has been taking steps, you know, as if like a reason why we evolved was because our, you know, the four-limbed creature was like, I've had it with this smell of dirt, and suddenly, and suddenly it stood up, you know. I feel the future of our species is in the recognition of these ideological overlays that really are placed upon an object. So I will begin from myself. That right now, the idea of, for example, Mr.Within, this online alias, is an ideological overlay over a biological body and a biological existence that pretty much we're overlaying the periodic table with the alphabet. That means if aliens, if there were aliens in the future who came to speak to humanity, they'd be like, why do you guys build a world inside a world and then forget that you were in a real world, you know? I feel the most important, it's for me a mantra. Anytime there's turbulence, suffering, ignorance, whether others are rude to me, whether moments where I am not content with my own behavior, all of it comes down, all my suffering comes down to being 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Anytime this idea comes to my mind, it frees me from the expectations I have from this rock in the middle of nowhere. So, just like we have to look at the dimensions of the object in focus, we have to look at the dimensions of the subject in focus. And the subject of humanity is a collection of individual human movements. That means it's as if we didn't know we could be a group until we were all individually chilling. Can you imagine how long we had to evolve before human beings wouldn't just kill each other on sight? So, dimensions of the social entity. We have two modes of perception. I feel anybody, anywhere. This I find is a universal model. It doesn't matter potentially what planet you could have been born on, what civilization, what dimension, what framework. It's all about where attention is to itself first. And anybody who understands this, they will come to realize that the mind is non-local. That means in front of your eyes, yes, everything is an object. Behind your eyes, or if you were to close your eyes, it is true that you start with the immediate awareness that you're an object, still and silent, let's say, for example, in meditation. But something interesting happens in that silence, where after 10 to 20 minutes, I would say 10, for those who are super busy, for those who are super busy, 20 minutes, just sit still. Don't do anything, no meditation, nothing. Just be still and watch your moment like a film. Watch what your mind does. It is the privilege of being alive, that we don't walk alone. You see, even in the dimensions of the human being, one is not alone. You know, I am in a sense the watcher. I am like, my mind is like my moment, my body's moving in it. So my body is always with my mind, as if my mind is like the best friend of my body. And some days my body is following my mind, some days my mind is following my body. Honestly, it depends on the desires that become necessary, you know. So in front of our eyes, we want to wonder about the survivability of objects and objects, how objects survive in whatever kind of world we perceive them. And behind our eyes, we are a subject trying to survive to every other idea and view our mind can fathom. So how does an object survive in front of our eyes? How does an object survive in a group of objects? And behind our eyes, how does a subject be us compared to all the subjects the mind can fathom? In 2011, I found myself on a rock in the middle of a river. This was in Edwards Garden in Toronto, Canada. And there was this kind of small like stream river, and there was a rock in it, in the middle of it. I remember jumping from the rocks and going on the middle of that and sitting on this rock, and it was a sunny day, and from behind me the water of the river was going forward. So I was just looking at the water of the river just going forward. And for me, for the first time, it occurred to me, who was looking out through my eyes? I cannot tell you, this was the biggest question that hit me this life. The biggest question. And I noticed the moment I caught on to the idea that I don't know who's looking, and my mind went suddenly giving answer, as if the mind suddenly realized the awareness had caught on to its play, you know? Like the snake oil salesman that gets caught. The mind suddenly noticed it was as if it was, you know what it was? It was as if the ethnocentric conditioning of the character in the world I had become to myself. Suddenly I noticed I was never that, and I noticed that it's unknown before known first. And because people forget this, they get sold on knowledge. Okay, so guys, I'm going to turn off the music. It seems like it's distracting some people, but generally as a note for the talks in the future, music is life. Anyways, to continue, in silence. Because guys, for me, I can play the music regardless. I can still hear the music myself. If the audience doesn't like the music, it doesn't make a difference. Okay. So, in front of our eyes, survival is an object. Behind our eyes, survival is a subject. Now, the interesting thing, the subject requires an object. We ask ourselves, what are we being a subject of? It's our objective body. We ask ourselves, what are we being an object of? It's the subjective mover. And this is where really comes the difference between agency and constraints, right? Even in the study of society, we find this. That the agency, what it means is that there is free will. That means we are a creature that is in the starting position in reality. For example, animals, they can't start more than their instincts. We are creatures that can do things more than our instincts. This is why I'm saying that even every artist on this planet, every person who's randomly, you could have been just waiting in a bank and had a piece of paper and started drawing something on it, right? Anytime the free will starts being active, the constraints of the outer realms reinterpret to how that free will agency moves. Right, so we are individuals trying to be free in society, but then so many barriers, suddenly an avalanche of constraints arise. And these constraints are not from society. Before the constraints of society, there were the constraints of nature. It's as if it's a constant push or pull. The outer realms are pulling the inner realms to be like them. The inner realms are trying to pull the outer realms to be like it, right? And this is so evident, especially for those who have sales experience. Sales experience is hilarious. I think this is my philosophy, but I feel that anybody who's been in sales or has been in acting, you know, anybody who's an actor or is in sales, pretty much the same. But they're pretty much the same profession, but different paychecks, you know. But the thing about the salesman archetype, the actor archetype, is that the being is conscious they are not what they're being. They're conscious. How would I say it? It's as if, for example, Marlon Brando, when it came to The Godfather, Francis Ford Coppola went to him and pretty much showed him the script, and Marlon Brando was a method actor. And as a method actor, he went to where his character was, right? Some actors, they kind of reanimate the character they're being in the film from who they are. And there's some characters who try to go into the concept of the character. So, for example, the Godfather role, Marlon Brando gets shoe polish, and he makes his hair black, and then he puts a tissue underneath his lip, and he starts trying to create the character of the Godfather. Do you know? It's as if he knew he wasn't the character, but in the process of creating the character, there's the full certainty you're not the character. Now, method actors, you could say, they on some point make the line so thin that to have a spectacular performance, the person has to relocate in the inner realms into the actuality of the character. What that means is if you're a director and you're speaking to an actor and you want to say the motivation behind it, there has to be an emotion and a situation that creates the emotion. So it's as if the character is about to fight, it's like the actor is in a fighting scene. The director is like, imagine like your best friend was killed by these bad guys. And even though it wasn't, right? There was nothing like that. The actor relocates himself or herself into that inner realm possibility and lets that emotion appear, right? So we can say actors, they are through body language animating their inner realms. Like I'm sitting here and I'm just speaking. I'm like a vocal. I'm communicating through my voice. It's like as if the actor is communicating through just the trans-teleported view of where they are. Do you know what I mean? In the inner realms. Everybody is using their inner realms, you know? Everybody. You know, there's nobody that you can't be a human being and not have access to what the human life provides, you know? The vision-wise, natural vision-wise. So our free will, apparently witnessing from our inner realms, expresses itself as an object in the outer realms. That means an unknown viewing subject is simultaneously being a known uh, uh, observed object. Now, most people on this planet, their survival or the story they tell themselves of the idea that they are to themselves, for most people is based on their outer realms. What that means is if the person holds a coffee cup and they're like, I identify with the person who's held a coffee cup right now, you know, and suddenly somebody takes that coffee cup, the outer realm changes the inner survival, right? Can change for the person who hasn't realized they're not language yet. Right? But when you realize you're neither an object, neither a subject, something remarkable happens. It's as if your free will instantaneously attains its desire in the inner realm. In the outer realm, there is a delay. That means our minds, the life of our mind, is faster and way more instantaneous than the life of our bodies. A person can walk in a mall, look at the store, like through the glass and see an item, right? Let's say see a nice jacket or something, right? Now the person is just walking by and they haven't stopped walking. They're just walking past. But in that nanosecond, the mind can see the jacket, use emotion to wonder what would it feel if I wore this jacket. And from the feeling of how would I feel wearing this jacket, the mind can see itself. Right? That means for some people, their inner realms is already living, is already active. When I speak, for example, when I give these talks, in the inner realms, there's imagery. It's like a film. But it's a film that based on my interest to pull the string it animates. You know, guys, actually, I'm gonna, this episode, there's this song I really want to play. So, what shall the moon say that the sun hasn't already said? just a warning, guys, the music's coming back on. You know, for those who are afraid of underground ambient music. Run! We are an agent of our vision. The outer realms are firewood for the flames of the inner realms. The inner realms are firewood for the flames of the outer realm. You know, we have inventors on this planet who they bring what is in their inner realms and they make it actually in the outer realms. Physically, they create what was there in their inner realm in the outer realm, right? And there are people who look at those inventions and suddenly they get ideas on updating those inventions, and so an outer realm event suddenly leads to the generation of another inner realm event. So these massive ideological overlays, first of all, they're all starting from people. We gotta realize knowledge is for the people and by the people, or is by the people for the people. What can I say? We're pretty much creatures on a rock. We created language. Every word we're using now was once imagined. Pretty much we imagined reality, and then we kept that image of reality as the point of reference, and we made that accepted view on reality more important than the rest. So pretty much at some point we discovered, like fire, an ability to allow an outer realm sound and an inner realm image an inner realm symbol, and an outer realm sound. We welded these together, right? So I am saying reality is just technology. It's a technology. This might be one of the strangest things a human being has ever said, but reality is a technology. And the user of reality is beyond reality. Isn't that an interesting idea? We use reality, but reality is not something specific on its own, right? It's always changing. That's the biggest clue that it's not one thing, because every generation experiences a different kind of earth, a different access to resources, technology, social evolution, and whatnot. We can say the purpose of an object is to be or to be moved. We can say the purpose of a subject is to be or to be moved, right? So if we ask what is moving our subject, we will notice the subject is the massive ideological overlay, and the object is the rock in the middle of nowhere. So we become the watchers, the unknown watcher of the known objects, the known object and the known subject's inseparability and simultaneity. This is pretty much as mystical as it gets, where the individual and the collective are inseparable. That means there is no person and there is no presence of a person. So for the first time, the world returns to its raw self. And some people consider that enlightenment. Some people don't. You know, some schools of thought, you got to completely exit. You have to renounce all material desire as if the world was never here and you were never here, and then you are the ultimate, right? In the inner realms, in regards to the inner realms. And a name, of course, is an overlay, and everything that has meaning seems to be named. So what we consider to be fact is actually the subjective acceptance of how an object is, but regardless of what the subject is, the object is its own nature. Now, there has been, for example, incidents where they called it the double slit experiment, where in quantum physics, like an electron, due to the observer's influence, changed its position. Or I don't know if this word is a word, but simultaneousized, you know. We can say, as sociologists looks at society as an ultimate fact, we can say the scientist looks at matter, the observable universe, as an ultimate fact. Because if there was a chance this whole world was like a video game simulation, science would be meaningless. Because it would be as if science has explained the simulation, not beyond it. So the ultimate fact has to be reality. The matter is reality. I find that's the only way you can test something. There has to be something to test, right? But if you're the watcher of the moment, that's not something you can test. It's something you can be, though, or you are being, though. So the sociologist is looking at the world through the lens of the social human, right? The scientist is looking at it through the material human. The psychologist, that means sociologist, is looking at the outer realm and inner realm, but doesn't care about the precision more. I mean, this is debatable, but anyways, the sociologist looked at society as the ultimate fact. The scientist looked at the material human, the sociologist looked at the social human as the ultimate fact. The scientist looked at the material human as the ultimate fact. The psychologist looked at the ultimate fact that we are a material being, and from the material wanted to know how the mind is immaterial. Okay? Then we had the philosopher. For the philosopher, it was from the immaterial, and there's two branches of philosophy here. There's the analytical philosophers and continental philosophers, but I'm speaking here in the sense of the continental philosopher. The continental philosopher is wondering, what if the material fact wasn't the ultimate? So it could be a view from the immaterial to the material. That means, anyways, so the psychologist looked at the mind from the viewpoint that matter is in the room first. The philosopher had the ability to look in the inner realms at how matter wasn't in the room first. There was something else. The immaterial was in the room first, maybe. Right? And so many philosophies have branched out where people don't know this. But the word metaphysics, it's a branch in philosophy. It's a branch of that branch. You know, it's a... the branch of that tree of knowledge. So beyond the philosopher, who did we have? We have the mystic. The philosopher cares about the unknown, but the mystic wants to experience it. Experience is a total different level than the garb of knowledge and language, right? There's a level where we are like, have this incredible symbolic system, right? Max Weber called this symbolic interpretivism. And so what he meant by that means we all have symbols and we're all living in a society of symbols. That's a way I could say it. Where it's our common interpretation which allows us to co-create or work together. You know, that means two people of a separate language, regardless of how kind-hearted they are, regardless of how much they love the world and love each other, if they can't communicate, there's a wall in between. It's as if it's totally fine to love people, but why love people from behind a wall? You know, the world can readjust itself instantly and find out how many other dimensions there were that the being didn't see from the beginning. That's the game, really. Your eyes open and like a machete in a forest, Amazonian forest, you're exploring. So in the macro view, I can even say a rock in the middle of nowhere where sound and symbolism in the inner realms is overlaying stories upon these in the periodic table, pretty much, right? Where evolution made the periodic table into a story, character in a story. I feel we have gone beyond the causal position of matter to the immaterial. I mean, it's just obvious, like, just look at our entertainment on this planet. All our entertainment is beyond human. It's either fantasy based on the past, you know, medieval reinterpretations, or they are, in some sense, future science fiction, right? So really, our entertainment has been divided between reality, fantasy, and science fiction, I find, ultimately. You know, and everything else can fit into one of these because time is the key. Pretty much I'm saying past, present, future, right? We treat what we see like a person behind a traffic light, that's your present, right? A person watching a film about, I don't know, aliens or something, that's the future. A person entering a history, that's a museum, that's the past, you know? Guys, just I'm just constantly trying to paint this picture that whatever we do, we can always come to the simpler principles, and the simplest principle that is that we were being before we were being through language and through the linguistic simulation. So it's as if like the objects have mobilized. You see people do parkour. We've explored as a species to some degree, at least some human beings have, our outer realms and our outer realm mobility. Right now it's the inner realm mobility. Now the cool thing with the inner realms is that if the eyes are open, the inner realms are overlaid on the outer realm. There's no way of not doing that. The moment your eyes are open, you're seeing something, right? So it's like someone is being overlaid over something that is being before there is someone, you know? So the mind has two ways it's happening. The body has one way it's happening. So the mind is the multidimensional generator. It's where multidimensionalism comes. It's as if existence is a light beam and we are this unknown prism. And the light of existence multidimensionalizes into various ways that memory creates experience. I thought about how ridiculous is this in psychology. I mean, of course, this is we have, okay, I'll share it this way. In psychology, we have this idea of a fragmented psyche. A psyche is the word we use for the mind, and hilariously, even though psychologists dismiss the spirit, but the idea of psyche comes from the word spirit, you know? You know, it's a bit ironic. It's like psychology, its whole ideology is based on the brain being there before the something else. But the word psyche comes from the idea of the spirit. That means the word psyche is spirit in disguise. You know? Or poetically, the mind is unknown. The known mind is an unknown soul in disguise. Or is the known, what is known as the disguise of the unknown. So in psychology, this idea of a fragmented psyche, this idea that a person starts off as an individual, then goes in life, and based on the experiences they have, their attention gets captured and burdened into certain moments and certain inner events. That means not all human beings have understood yet the ability that's innate, but they haven't cultivated it, the ability to let go of inner events. To let go of an inner event means you just see, you let on yourself on a design level, see the realism of the moment, then allow the imagination to spectrumize probability, you know? So we have this view that a person, there's this idea, for example, that a person has into one personality. The yogis didn't have a personality, they were super enlightened. And then there are some people who, based on the intensity and the suffering found in the cultural program, social program, and their outer realm, their psychology gets divided. And it's not that the psyche is something to get divided. Honestly, you're an energetic moment in a very basic way of explanation. Right? That means regardless of who, before the person thinking, I am this or I am that, it's like, I am. Okay? We are. Right? So we are some sort of energy. And the whole thing is how much we use our consciousness to pilot, to become responsible for our outer realm and to also become responsible for our inner realm. Right? Zen, what we find, the great scholar, I would say, the scholar Jordan Peterson say about clean your room. The Zen masters were saying clean your room in the inner realms. Clean your inner realm. Clean your inner room. And when you clean your inner room, your relationship with time is different, so karma cannot happen the same way. That's the reality. Experientially, your view on time changes. The world has changed its time. So, check this out. Psychologists are talking about a fragmented psyche, the multidimensionalism of the persona, the multiplicity of the persona, but they don't realize our memory, what memories are. Everybody who has memories right now, our senses of self recorded in the space-time continuum as if our face is a camera, as if our eyes are a camera. And they don't just record the outer realm, they record the inner realm as well. That means when a person says, hey, do you remember that story I told you a week ago? You know, it's as if that's an inner realm remembrance of that outer realm event back in a week ago, for example. What I'm trying to say is that any person who has a memory has a fragmented psyche. It's just that the attention is unaware, right? You can see it even with the style of people. If you look at it, people, based on how they're dressed or how they choose to behave, you can tell in their inner realms what kind of era they're stationed in. The only way we can update these massive ideological overlays is by at first going towards new experience, novelty in experience. So first experience something new, then if you as an advanced communicator on this planet, notice there is no language for the type of experience you've had, as if you're the first person who's entered this uncharted territory in the inner realms or unconscious, then there comes a relationship after there is the experience to then put language, right? The whole suffering, the whole issue with language is we don't have the experience, we accept the language first, right? But if there was experience, there would be no need for the language, right? Because the experience would be what the language is trying to figure out. Imagine it's been 250,000 years where we have been, as human beings, properly telling ourselves stories. And the stories and the language that we have been telling ourselves, it's as if carbon over time becoming a diamond, right? So the language starts from an inaccurate explanation of the outer realms to becoming more and more accurate, but in the time that it's becoming more accurate, also more words and ideas are arising. You know, the downsides of a dishonest civilization is that its language doesn't evolve properly because its language is not staying true to its experience. That means the more artificial human activity we have, which means the new human beings are trying to repeat the past, the more the future misses out on its potential, you know. I feel something that maybe every inventor or innovator of some kind has felt is that they have felt that the balcony, I would say, the inventor's balcony, that moment, or the ivory tower, that moment where you feel you are seeing something that anybody on the planet could also see. Right, but what is the thing is that it's the novelty factor. That means it's like we have reached a point where knowledge is not based on just relay ability. Knowledge is based on honesty with the realm. Those who are honest with the realm, doesn't matter if it's a person in a village, they have access to knowing in a way that the dishonest don't. And the reason is, even I think it was Aristotle was saying something where he said something like a lying person has to remember, a person who lies has to remember many versions of himself, you know, as if you're living in a parallel universe, like various parallel universes. But a person who's just simple is not afraid of being simple, is not afraid of being a fool to themselves. What else can happen? That means it's like, let's say once a person does something foolish, right? After that foolishness, what else can happen? From foolishness, from the bottom, you can only go up, right? So if you get comfortable with the simpler levels of experience, of existence, then the complex levels become super easy. It's as if we have to train ourselves beyond our eyes. There's this Zen story, this student, disciple of Zen. He goes to a Zen master and he's like, hey man, I can't do this. It's like every time I sit down to meditate, it doesn't work. I'm feeling way more stress, suffering. What do I do? You know, my meditation's not working. And the Zen master looks at the student and says, this will pass. And the student's like, I was expecting more. More from you, but okay. And the student goes. And suddenly the student does something right in his meditation. He stops trying and just watches how nature is happening. And his meditation is peaceful from the beginning. It's all about the type of, the way you're sitting down, the way you're centered in your own attention. This is where true power comes from. It's it's where knowing comes from. That means anybody who wants to know the knower has to look at how they are knowing before they know. You know, how are they not knowing, for example? Because the inseparability between the individual and collective means, like, so many people interested about the Akashic records, but I mean, it's literally like what Akashic records for a drop in the ocean? The guy goes back to the Zen master, the student, and says, my meditation was great, man. I feel liberated, enlightened, you know. I felt I might have even been the Buddha in a past life. And the meditation teacher, the Zen master, looks at him and is like, guess what I'm gonna say? This will pass. And the student, the disciple, is shocked. Because that's the nature of reality. This is when suffering stops, because everything comes and goes. So this is why there's even more reasons to put your phone on silent, and your mind also on silent. You know? It's just remarkable how we are all in a world right now, you know. It's like, what an abundance of worlds. Not only we have, like, in front of our eyes an endless landscape we can be mobile in. Any moment in this landscape, out around landscape, we can sit down and our attention can move without the body. In society, we currently have a currency system where we value things, but we value things with numbers. It's as if numbers leaked everywhere. So technically, objects are interpreted as numerically existent with a certain value. Where people, it's like any person who goes to pretty much so many businesses realize this. And so, anyways, from a system of currency, I feel it kind of neo-reverting back into a society where, just like how we have so many children, I was thinking, like, how do we build a society for the future? And so many people on this planet, they're engaged in games, whether it's sports, whether it's, I don't know, digital sports, whatever it is, it's a sort of game kind of narrative we've started running, right? Everybody's kind of like jumping through the hoops they see, you know. Everyone's being reemergence of honor that makes each of us value the individual, but not in accordance to what the individual has, but what the individual has done, right? A society where skill comes back. Like, I really want to see a civilization that's kind of like Kung Fu Hustle, like that movie, where it's like the, I don't know, the baker or like the tailor, where they were all martial artists, you know what I mean? They were living in some sort of outer realm civility, but deep down what was the foundation of society was skill, right? And skill, I mean, I don't know, I can imagine there being this giant company in the future that owns everything. And even people on the planet have decided one company to build everything. Okay, this is, just think of it as a pair of, you know, Mr. Within's view on a parallel possibility of our future. So imagine one giant company is creating all the highest quality and efficient and safest and healthiest products and supplies on the planet. As if a bunch of smart people were like, enough with this low quality civilization. It's like, when are we going to experience the high quality living here? You know, efficient collective living. You know, when is the hive mind going to a roar? So it would be a situation where that one company, everybody would be connected to that one company, and people will go out in society, they would do quests. These quests will give them points. And what that means is it becomes a sort of situation, and of course it's very hard, the infrastructure has to become way more safer, where it's pretty much going to be where people are just traveling everywhere, and they are going and, how do I say it? It's as if it's an open world possibility of expressing the skill. You know, there is something with nature that it's always man's relationship with nature. Everything comes down to that. If you're a person who it's easy for you to step on ants, that's like, it's going to be easy for you to watch, you know, move. You know what I mean? It's like there isn't this subtler boundary in your inner realms of being sensitive to that life is being alive here on the planet. Oh my God, something is moving here, right? That's precious. And it's not egotistically precious like Lord of the Rings, my precious. So many people in today's society are like, my precious ego. There is a Sufi story I'm going to share. There was this merchant back in the day in the Middle East, in the East, going from towns, from desert to desert, you know, caravans. And this merchant is going, and he goes to this town, and in this town, it's a small town, and people are just so astonished. It's like a divine miracle. Somebody has visited their town and village in the outskirts of nowhere, right? And so this merchant comes with supplies and whatever, and he comes to town, and he welcomes everybody, and he tells everybody, go tell everybody that I'm here. You know, everybody goes and says, you know, he's here, the merchant's here, and people come. And the merchant is like, he's seen enough of how people live in so many different societies, where he's like, he's a merchant that is not, his hands are not oily anymore. His hands are not greasy anymore. What that means is the merchant has realized that it's just a pattern, it's the decency in how you unfold the pattern that really is the meaning in life. Okay? So the merchant is there, and some people come, and some people who are working people, they're like, no, this is, I have to provide a value, you know. You know, and anyways, what happens is the merchant shares the supplies with everybody. There's this one man who he seems he doesn't have the funds, and he comes and says, this is all I have. Would you be kind enough to accept this, and this is what I need from you. And the merchant sees this, and the merchant just gives the guy what he has, right? He realizes the strategy is if this guy needs this, right? So, and the merchant, of course, his eyes are open. So look at what happens, right? The guy, because they're in life, they say there has to be an equal trade. If there isn't, because before money, currency, there was bartering, there has to be an equal exchange. Now our society only values outer realm stuff. We don't see inner realm stuff as being that valuable, you know, even financially, right? So what happens is, what do you call it? The guy says, I have to then tell you something. And he says there is an enlightened dervish and Sufi master at the edge of this town. And you go up that street, and it's the last house on the thing. You'll notice exactly which house it is. And there's an enlightened Sufi master. And back in the day, for Sufis and Sufi culture, they would say the pearl. Enlightenment was called the pearl. So this man, this customer of this kind merchant, looks at this merchant and says, there's a man here with the pearl. Go and speak to him. You know, and the merchant is just astonished. He didn't expect to hear something like this. You know, it's as if a rare thing, rare cultural event, idea. So the merchant thanks the guy, you know, and everything happens. He does his business, and then he wraps it up, and he, as the horses or camels or whatever are resting, he goes to see the merchant. The merchant goes to see the Sufi, goes to see the dervish. He knocks on the door. And it's this house that it's like everything is so simple. It's like minimalism before minimalism was a thing. You know, it's like so minimalistic. It's just like 2 stages away from not being a place of residence. Anyways, the merchant knocks. There's a silence. The door opens. A man comes smiling. It's the dervish. This man with a sort of, they had a tasbih rosary, kind of their rosary, and they would this is, a dervish is like a spiritual, is like a hermit, spiritual hermit, you know. And so what happens? The dervish welcomes him in. They sit down. The dervish sets up the kettle. It was like tradition to offer tea when somebody visits. And so what happens is the merchant is sitting there, and he sees this minimalistic dervish. Then he looks at the dervish's house, and he's like, no way. And of course, the guy's a merchant, right? He has that merchant mentality, you know. So the merchant looks at the guy and sees he has a bed. And he only has a mat. He has a lamp. And he has the kettle, and that's it. That's all he has. And they're all sitting on the ground of his room. Yeah. And what do you call it? The merchant looks at him and says, like, you know, he tries to bring that merchant personality out. You know, he says, "My friend, where's your furniture?" You know, and he just like laughs in a joking, you know, kind of warm, playful way. The Sufi dervish suddenly, as he's pouring tea, he looks at him intensely and he says, "Where's your furniture?" And this merchant suddenly snaps, like, you know, the merchant suddenly, it's like, he's kind of held off guard with the guy's intensity, and he says, "What do you mean?" You know, his ego shines. It's like, "What do you mean? I'm a merchant. Are you serious? I'm a merchant. I travel. You know, I don't have furniture. I don't need furniture." And the Sufi looks at him and he says, "I am also a traveler. Me too." And that's the whole moral of the story, that we are traveling in the realm as attention. And the moment the mystics realized they were unknown, life couldn't be the same. And it's never the same. It's always changing. We just don't realize it because we hold on to the inner events. So this merchant suddenly realizes that to open to the mystical is to recognize and to be honest with the world. To be honest with the world means to feel your temporalness. It doesn't mean to cower away in ideological eternity. There is a real dimension here. There is a living event. There is something happening here. You know, and so many stories have tried to touch it, but Mr. Within will tell you the unknown is unknown. And those who understand this are the ones who have known before they need to know. It's literally creatures battling language. We're battling language to ourselves, we're battling language with others. And it seems like we can't silently, like the bees and the ants, accept our position in nature and abide by it. You know, so we have to consciously build an organizational system. Now, some scholars say this is the new ethos. What that means is the word ethos is like the inspiration of a collective, a group, right? So you can say that if a person wanted to see, for example, what a group is nothing. It's like, look, that's just a group of people. Then when the group of people have an ideology, we say that's a cult, right? Any group of people who has an ideology, because the people don't know from the outside, it's its own program, you know. But check this out. Look at the word culture. Culture is like a cult of a group, of a bigger group of people. It's like a national cult, right? So nations are like cults, right? But what's more hilarious is that the planet is like a cult that's holding all these other cults. All cultures are based on how nature behaves, at least until we build sky cities in Mr. Within Civ 2.0. You know, I would say this would be the evolution. Shakespeare said to be or not to be. Then it's to be human or not to be human. This is the current era. This is the slogan of our times, I would say. This is really the challenge, the Rubik's Cube that the advanced communications and the era of advanced communication starting from 2020 and onwards. And then it is to be human or to be the beyond. I feel two philosophies right now. It's like a Hunger Games of ideological programs in the outer realms. But I will tell you, two words are going to come on top. Beyondism and unknownism. And you can say they are two words for the same. You can say beyondism is a branch of unknownism. You know, and let me tell you what I mean by unknownism. The unknown means everything you know, there is more to it. This is how faith comes. Faith is like the psyche the attention looking at the whole system and wanting to comprehend it in one way, in one mode. But because it is there's so many things that exist, right? The mind has to have faith that it can still comprehend it in one view. Faith is like it's like an oscillation. It's like moving from a singular to dualistic, then back into the singular. Because you've experienced a sort of singularity, even though you're in the duality, you still have the faith, or call it that innate intuition or whatever, right? Because there was the awareness of the singularity of the existential event. The experience doesn't fear shape or the experiencer. And then it's all just space. That means it's like feeling it like an astronaut on Earth, but in your inner realms. You are in space, but you are in your mind space. Alright, I feel I've reached that point of the talk where the only thing left to do is to dive into samurai quotes from the book of the Samurai Hagakure. It definitely feels like that part of the episode. The Book of the Samurai Hagakure, this is a quote tunnel, guys. It was written by Yamamoto Tsunetomo. And I would just for short say Tsunetomo to honor the author's last name. I hope it's his last name. There is surely nothing other than the single purpose of the present moment. A man's whole life is a succession of moment after moment. There will be nothing else to do, nothing else to pursue. Live being true to the single purpose of the moment. Okay, guys, literally in the next, okay. Yamamoto Tsunetomo. There is something to be learned from a rainstorm. When meeting with a sudden shower, you try not to get wet and run quickly along the road. But doing such things as passing under the eaves of houses, you still get wet. When you are resolved from the beginning, you will not be perplexed, though you will still get the same soaking. This understanding extends to everything. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, even if it seems certain that you will lose, retaliate. Neither wisdom nor technique has a place in this. A real man does not think of victory or defeat. He plunges recklessly towards an irrational death. By doing this, you will awaken from your dreams. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, to give a person an opinion, one must first judge well whether that person is of the disposition to receive it or not. Of course. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, be true to the thought of the moment and avoid distraction. Other than continuing to exert yourself, enter into nothing else, but go to the extent of living single thought by single thought. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, it is a wretched thing that the young men of today are so contriving and so proud of their material possessions. Men with contriving hearts are lacking in duty. Lacking in duty, they will have no self-respect. Excuse me. It is said that what is called the spirit of an age is something to which one cannot return. That this spirit gradually dissipates is due to the world's coming to an end. For this reason, although one would like to change today's world back to the spirit of 100 years or more ago, it cannot be done. Thus, it is important to make the best out of every generation. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says Bushido is realized in the presence of death. This means choosing death whenever there's a choice between life and death. There's no other reason. Let me tell you what he means. This is, okay, the samurai, they were at the time of war, so in battle this had a totally different meaning. But what it means is the inner realm. Sometimes when you confront your fear, or you pull the curtain of fear, to see what's behind it, right? That's kind of like an inner death, right? That's like fearlessness, where it's like at first it's a taste, then it becomes a reality, at least in certain dimensions where there's trust. So what he means is, like, sometimes your inner realm, you have to be comfortable to instantly see your inner realm vanish and look at the moment and then realize that this is life, that even if you try not to have an inner realm in the future, it's just the way nature is, that because we're in individual body that needs to survive, it will arise. There's nothing to fear about anything ever. Nature is just moving. Really. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, when one is writing a letter, he should think that the recipient will make it into a hanging scroll. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, if a warrior is not unattached to life and death, he will be of no use whatsoever. The saying that all abilities come from one mind sounds as though it has to do with sentient matters, but it is in fact a matter of being unattached to life and death. With such non-attachment, one can accomplish any feat. This is what I say is endless endurance. That's the only way it can come. Where you realize, so what, language moved in my ear, my eyes will move forward. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, there's nothing we should be quite so graceful for as the last line of the poem that goes, when your own heart asks. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says I read that. He says matters of great concern should be treated lightly. Master Ite commented, matters of small concern should be treated seriously. In the Kamigata area, they have a sort of tired lunchbox they use for a single day when flower viewing. Upon returning, they throw them away, trampling them underfoot. The end is important in all things. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, it is the spiritless to think that you cannot attain to that which you have seen and heard the masters attain. The masters are men. You are also a man. If you think that you will be inferior in doing something, you will be on that road very soon. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, respect, honesty, courage, rectitude, loyalty, honor, benevolence. So anybody who wants to be a samurai, you gotta follow these. If one is but secure at the foundation, you will not be pained by departure from minor details or affairs that are contrary to expectation. But in the end, the details of a matter are important. The right and wrong of one's way of doing things are found in trivial matters. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, If by setting one's heart right every morning and evening, one is able to live as though his body were already dead, he gains freedom in the way. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says sincerity does not only complete the self, it is the means by which all things are completed. There is, as the self is completed, there is human-heartedness. As things are completed, there is wisdom. This is the virtue of one's character, and the way, capital W, of joining the internal and external. Thus, when we use this, everything is correct. Although this may be a difficult thing, if one will do it, it can be done. There is nothing that one should suppose cannot be done. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, no matter if the enemy has thousands of men, there is fulfillment in simply standing them off and being determined to cut them all down starting from one end. Yeah, this is definitely warrior psychology right here. In the highest level, a man has the look of knowing nothing. Human life is truly a short affair. It is better to live doing the things that you like. It is foolish to live within this dream of a world seeing unpleasantness and doing only things that you do not like. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says purity is something that cannot be attained except by piling effort upon effort. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says even if it seems certain that you will lose, retaliate. That was just a part of something I read earlier. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says victory Yamamoto Tsunemoto says victory and defeat are matters of the temporary force of circumstances. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says if one has no earnest daily intention, does not consider what it is to be a warrior even in his dreams, and lives through the day idly, he can be said to be worthy of punishment. Oh my god. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, do not rely on following the degree of understanding that you have discovered, but simply think, this is not enough. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, at times, because of one man's evil, 10,000 people suffer. Okay, this quote is too intense, guys. I gotta end off with something else. This book is, of course, different era than now, written different. Yamamoto Tsunemoto says, all that matters is having a single-minded purpose, ichinen, in the here and now. Life is an ongoing succession of, in quotations, one will at a time. Each and every moment, a man who realizes this truth need not hurry to do or seek anything else anymore. Just live in the present with single-minded purpose. People forget this important truth and keep seeking other things to accomplish. So now think, same thing Yamamoto Tsunotomo is saying in the Book of the Samurai. Think of this for a universal being, a single-minded purpose for a universal activity. Is that an ego? Okay, anyways. Yamamoto Tsunomoto, if one does not get it into his head from the very beginning that the world is full of unseemly situations, for the most part his demeanor will be poor and he will not be believed by others. Yamamoto Tsunotomo says it is not sufficient just to remain calm in the event of catastrophe or emergency. When challenged by adversity, charge onwards with courage and jubilation. This is rising to a higher level. It is like the saying, the more water there is, the higher the boat rises. Yamamoto Tsunotomo says when someone is giving you his opinion, you should receive it with deep gratitude even though it is worthless. If you don't, he will not tell you the things that he has seen and heard about you again. It is best to both give and receive opinions in a friendly way. Yamamoto Tsunotomo says, living without mistakes is truly impossible, but this is something that people who live by cleverness have no inclination to think about. Yeah, because cleverness wants cleverness wants something it hasn't seen. I don't know how to say it. One last quote. Yamamoto Tsunotomo says common sense will not accomplish great things, simply become insane and desperate. Yamamoto Tsunotomo says Yamamoto Tsunotomo says being superior to others is nothing other than having people talk about your affairs and listening to their opinions. The general run of people settle for their own opinions and thus never excel. There was one more sentence to that quote. He says, having a discussion with a person is one step in excelling him. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, the way of the warrior Bushido is to be found in dying. That means, I guess, conquering of fear, but not per se extremely in the outer realms. It doesn't have to be like that in the inner realms, I would say. Tsunetomo Yamamoto says, the condition of a person is revealed by his dreams. It would be good to make companions of your dreams and to put forth effort. Yamamoto Tsunetomo says, Jocho's discourse is multifaceted and ostensibly chaotic, but the spirit of Hagakure can be best summed up by the 4 simple oaths he alludes to throughout the text. I will never fall behind others in pursuing the way of the warrior. I will always be ready to serve my Lord. I will honor my parents. I will serve compassionately for the benefit of others. So this is Jocho's discourse in the like in Yamamoto Tsunetomo is commenting on it. He's saying Hagakure can be summed up by these 4 simple views. That means the person is not afraid of their self-challenge, right? The challenge to move beyond themselves. They're not also afraid of the challenge of serving the bigger picture. You know, and then it says, I will honor my parents, honor your roots, and I will serve compassionately for the benefit of others. The tree must give its fruits before it leaves the room. You know? So anyways, guys, I hope this episode was interesting. Anyways, guys, I feel we just went through kind of like a samurai word temple. The idea is, just like others have never seen the person before, the person has never seen themselves in their newest expression. If the person repeats the expression, they have seen themselves before. If they do something new, they have never seen themselves before. So if the fascination of self to self can be there, and the fascination of self to world can be there, and the recognition of the inseparability of world as being self in an objective manner, and self as being the world in a subjective manner. And so the witnessing of the object and subject is like, it's like as the poet Rumi says, just like a bird needs 2 wings to fly, and to even fly, the bird has to rhythmically, symmetrically move its wings, right? So the poet Rumi says the mind requires good and bad, chaos and order to exist and to function. To be a character in a story, you need unknown variables and known variables. If the unknown variables stop, that story becomes a picture in the space-time continuum. If the unknown variables remain, and usually ideological systems that look at the reality as a universal setting, right? As if we're trying to be global, so we're still stuck in the national. But if we tried to be universal, we'd be global instantly. If we try to be fascinated by the galaxies, not just act like they are far, but in our minds they become incorporated in our cultures, right? Can you imagine the name of streets being the name of all the important knowledge, right? You know, or important people, right? You know, so there's something that needs to be needs to overflow the streets of modern civilization, an inner rebellion. A rebellion of the self that the world told you, and the new self that you are now walking into the world as. there's this last story I'm going to share before I end off, and for those interested, I'm going to be in the Discord. What day is it today? Yeah, it's Saturday. It works. For those who are philosophically inclined, I will repeat this. Feel free to join the Discord. I'll be there at the end of this talk after I share this story, pretty much. So, all of this, guys, is to say that just observe your realm. Don't think that people don't know, and don't think that people know, and don't think that you're a thought, because it's impossible. You're either endless changing thoughts, or do you know what I mean? You're either like we're either a line where it's so many different dots, but because they're all connected to one another, we feel we're one line, we're one personality. But it could be that this personality is an unknown attention. In every environment it goes in, there's stimulus. The stimulus gives it a reason to process, you know, to be processed as an individual, right? So the environment has an influence on our behavior as much as we have an influence on the environment's behavior. So just awareness beyond language, the awakening of a species from a giant linguistic slumber. So these are great things that will happen, and I hope I'm still in the realm to see it. But it's happening. I'm telling you, nature is so ahead of man that it's as if like there's only, what can I tell you? Our civilization is surfing in the waves of the void, and the surfboard is this planet. The last story before the plane lands. One night, this is the story of a king in Vedic times in India, ancient India. This king dreams that he's a beggar. Imagine being a king. Imagine being someone sitting on a throne, being the most important person in a kingdom, you know, feeling the highest value. Yeah, kinghood, yeah. Right? And the king, I mean, it's like who wants a giant chunk of metal on their head all the time? Like, that's not healthy, you know. No wonder kings were irritated, you know. It's like, who can be like have a decent psychology with, you know, that much metal on their head, you know. Anyways, this king dreams he's a beggar, and this is a big blow to a king's ego. It's like a Wall Street man suddenly feeling homeless, a person in Wall Street suddenly dreaming he's homeless, right? So it's something like that level, right? So the king dreams this, and back in the day, in Indian culture, there was the concept of like enlightened gurus, and so there was a guru, like, I don't know, the palace guru or whatever, you know. And so this king wakes up and he goes to his guru, and in Indian thought they entertain the notion of that we are a transmigratory soul, and there's an individual soul and a collective soul, and that's why the soul is transmigrating in the collective soul. And so this individual soul, it goes from life to life, and so just like how we change clothing, right, we change biological existence. Like some yogi in one book, where it was so intense, the yogi was like, you know, it's like, enough from this hitchhiking from womb to womb. I was like, no way, this guy just said, you know, but like but it was like, it was like showing you that culture's view on a transcendental realism underneath the reality that is just that observable universe, what's found in the observable universe. So he fears that it could be that he's getting a sign from the universe that the way he's living as a king, he's going to be a beggar in his next lifetime. That means he's so egotistical, he just wants for himself, he just wants himself to get through, you know, so that it's as if like it's literally like a beggar algorithm in a king's body, you know. And excuse me for using these words, but I mean, it's like we have to stay true to the nature's events, right? The story is something that that realized, participated in. And so what happens is this guru of this guy, this king, goes to the guru, and he says, "Guru, I just dreamed I'm a beggar. What the fuck?" The king says, goes to the guru. I'll restate it. The king goes to the guru and says, "I dreamed I'm a beggar. What does this mean?" And the guru says, the guru is like the only one where the king would get scolded by and like not execute. You know? It was like the mirror of the king, right? In this story context, of course, gurus were like people who lived in mountains to some degree. But I mean, who didn't live on a mountain back then? But anyways, I'm getting carried away. So he says to the guru, "I dream. What does this mean?" And the guru shouts at him, and the guru says, the king says, "Why am I going to be a beggar?" And he says, "You are neither a beggar, and you are neither a king. Who are you?" And it's as if the king suddenly snaps out of it and he realizes nature's true presence beyond the personality's bite. The king says, "I am neither a beggar, I am neither a king. I am." That's the story of an enlightened king for you. In European history, usually we have kings that ate too much pastries, but like, you know, but like, but in certain ancient cultures, they had a totally different approach where it was like really this idea that royalty was divine was not it was before the era of the solidified ego and resource, right? It was you could say it was as if like even in the Native American, Native Amazonian tribes, right? In primitive tribes, there was, for example, like the elder of the tribe, right? And they had this constant thing to their ancestry, as if human beings in whatever cultural program they've opened their eyes in, they are in some sense aware that something happened, something is happening, and something will happen. You know, and so it's like this incredible way where we are like different angles to our momentum. You know, so based on your relationship with time, you can be timeless in an instant. You know, that means, you know, some people break up with time. And so they become timeless watchers of the realm of the moving man, you know, of the moving human being. That means imagine we just figured out the edge of the universe. Right now we can't see the edge of our universe, but I'm saying imagine we suddenly went to the edge of our universe and we realized that we're inside a glass sphere. The whole edge of the universe is inside a glass sphere. We're like, no way, the universe has an edge. You know, this would be the most mind-boggling scientists are fainting all over, you know, all over the planet, you know. Philosophers are speechless, you know. Mystics are opening their eyes from samadhi, you know. Psychologists, you know, are just have forgotten everything. With the sociologists, have gone to EDM concerts as if it's like the end of days, you know. Like, so if the universe had an edge, just think about its just consider its implication. If the universe had an edge and we explored everything, we did everything, and then we had even advanced AIs project to us, and we experienced so many ways, every other way we were as a human being, right? We would be inevitably in a position to be like, we have done everything and we have seen the edge of the observable universe. The only thing left is the inner realms. So the more the outer realms are balanced, the more people will suddenly notice the access to the inner realms. And potentially, I said it in yesterday's talk, I came up with a number that may, I'm just saying potentially, in the year 2123, there's going to be a technology, a sort of, we can't fathom it, but a sort of, so many revolutions in technology have happened in human nature, that it would be a point where it would be many minds, many bodies, but many minds would simultaneously be one mind, and that one mind, by being many minds, can be any singular body. You know? And of course, we're just creatures on a rock. You know, so I'm saying if the observable universe, we reached its end, we would go within. And we have an ability to go within now. And its value of going within is not like going somewhere. It's just noticing that your intelligence is the whole moment of your awareness, and everything that you are considering yourself, the world, is a part of this awareness. It's as if all of life and knowledge is a relationship of what's inside a sphere, but what's outside of the sphere is where the watcher is truly standing beyond the three-dimensional computer screen. Hilariously. The most advanced movement in civilization will occur from the generation that realizes its eyes were open before they could ever be closed. That is the greatest endless endurance, right? It's all about human beings building stuff for human beings. What else can we do here? Even if a person, here's the hilarious thing, even if a person is selfish or selfless, the self is a human being. Right? So it's as if we are designing civilization for human beings here, and we are having a relationship inside that civilization. You know, I would say the healthiest way that people can explain nature and the world is like, we go back to how that cool, like, a giant turtle legend. Where there was this giant turtle and all of civilization was on its back, and the mystics and the shamans and the rishis and the dervishes, you know, of this realm, they were the ones, and the monks, the Buddhist monks, you know, they, in some sense, they were the ones who touched the neck of the turtle and stopped the language game in civilization. They realized there is a living relationship we can have, not just with stuff in the universe, with the universe itself. But this suddenly becomes a challenge, because the relationship of a universe with itself is in two ways. Either man, we are saying we are a human being, that's the universe, and the universe communicates to us, oh my God, or we have this view that it's the universe is becoming a person, and the universe is remembering it's the universe again. So it's either a person that became a universe remembering it's a person, or a universe that became a person remembering it's a universe. Right? These are the modalities we find. These are like the spinning coin in the void of the unconscious. You know? That means the moment scientists said the word, the unobservable universe, was the moment they gave permission for the world to be a coin. So the other side is always unknown. Unknown is the unknown is. There could be a potential that in our inner realms, from a theosophical angle or any sort of, I don't know, inner realm metaphysical angle of a relationship with other dimensions, interdimensionality, multidimensionality, whatever kind of beyond the dual relationship, it's as if a mind, it's as if something invisible, it's as if something visible is being received invisibly. But because the invisible is receiving the visible, it cannot be invisible, and we use the word consciousness. That means that our attention is looking at a condition, or it's found in a certain circumstance, right? That means it's like consciousness is conditional, awareness is unconditional, right? Awareness is touching the neck of the turtle. Consciousness is be noticing that civilization is moving on this turtle's back. That means those who are wise are free before they need to be. Because how else can you be free? You see, it's like the same idea that we will not know an advanced civilization is happening until the first step is advanced. That means imagine an advanced civilization, a civilization, like the whole species having an ego, like humanity having an ego, right? In the future. It would be like the humanity's ego is like, okay, if I want to be advanced, I'm going to be advanced from the beginning. That means we will not, the generals will stay in the general's tent, constantly strategizing until we are certain that it is an advanced step. That means in multiple dimensions, in multiple parallel realities, before the project is set into motion, there's a consideration of what can happen. And then there is contentment and comfort because there has been an acceptance of the context before a person does any activity. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. And we are alive once. Let us realize it's the opportunity of eons to be individual. It's a great moment. The poet Attar says, be happy for this moment. This moment is your life. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Namaste. I'll be on Discord for those interested.